Hey, good evening. The Village of Hayward respectfully acknowledges that we are on the land we're gathered on is the unceded territory of the Comox First Nations, the traditional keepers of this land. We're going to call the meeting to order. Public question period. Public input for the purpose of permitting people in the gallery to provide feedback shall no longer be more than 15 minutes unless approved by the majority of council. Each speaker may provide a respectful comment on any topic they deem appropriate, not necessarily on the topics of the agenda of the meeting. Each speaker may speak for no longer than 2 minutes and have a second opportunity if time permits. If speakers must not be allowed to speak in regarding to a bylaw in respect to where a public hearing has been held. For the record, you would state your name and address, please. You have to come to the microphone, please. If that's too high, you could just, there you go. And because we're having problems picking up the audio, you have to speak right into it as well for the recordings.
Good evening. My name is Jackie Lyons. I reside at 291 Ambleside. Mr. Mayor, this is a question I have for you. It has been made public knowledge that I believe you have a law case pending against John France. I might add, I believe justifiably so. But could you please tell me whether or not any of the village or the taxpayers' money is going to fund this case you have?
No, it is not. The municipality has nothing to do with it. And the municipality is not paying for
Okay.
this lawsuit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next. Anyone else? Nope. Okay. Moving on, approval or introduction of late items. CAO, you had a couple of late items.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank
Start
you.
off with one at a time, please.
Yes. First, I would like to have correspondence. I would suggest A, request for support from Sayward Community Food Table. This is correspondence that was emailed to the village on Sunday, the 22nd, and we received yesterday on the 23rd. And I'm adding it as a late item because they're requesting for a letter of support for a grant that is due on November 1st.
And you're asking for it to go under correspondence, is that correct?
Correspondence A.
Okay, correspondence A. Do we have a motion, please? Oh, your microphone, please, CAO. Thank you.
I'll move that.
Nope, still don't got you.
I'll move that.
Thank you. Your second?
I'll second that.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Your second piece of correspondence, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to add that a staff memo be added as new business A. Staff memo is titled Meeting Procedure Error, October 17, 2023.
Hey, do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Pritchett's opposed. Motion is carried. Okay. That's it for the introduction of late items. Councillor Pritchett.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, from me, only to note that I would like an item from the agenda pulled, but I can speak to that.
In a moment?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll do that before approval of agenda. Okay, Councillor Pritchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to add to the agenda the video issues about public not being able to get onto the meetings and what policy and procedures are in place that either council has or has not voted on.
Okay, so we need a motion to have that introduced, please. Your microphone, please.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Your microphone, please.
I'll second that.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Next. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to have the UBCM reports, a motion to have these reports written because we have no information that happened from UBCM after the $5,000 expense setting the CAO there. I know yours was covered by the SRD, which is grateful to Sayward, but we need some reports on who was talked to and about what.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, discussion. I personally believe the verbal report that was given by the CAO on his trip was sufficient, but if people don't believe that, then this is why we vote. Any further discussion? Councillor Burchett?
Yeah, with regards to your report, Mr. Mayor, you couldn't even recall who you talked to when we asked you in your verbal report. So a written report would be great for the village of Sayward to know who you talked to and what about.
Thank you. Anybody else? All in favor? Opposed? The motion is defeated. Do we have any other introduction to late items? Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I see that the fire service agreement is not on the agenda again. I like it on the agenda for discussion because this is very serious for the village of Sayward and we keep running into deadlines, so we need to deal with this.
Okay. Anybody else? I believe that the fire service, correct me if I'm wrong, CAO will be on the November 21st agenda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I've committed to the SRD CAO that we will have that on your council agenda on the November 21st agenda.
All right, thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank the CAO for providing that information and would have hoped it would have been on the agenda, but since it wasn't, I appreciate getting it this late. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so on the motion, all in favor? Okay, motion is defeated. Are we moving on? Nope. Sorry. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to add a discussion about Nature's Trust, a staff report on where we are with that and either the negotiations have started or have not started with Nature's Trust because the negotiation was based on leverage for tax exemption and that's on the agenda for tonight to pass a 5-year tax exemption. If we pass that, then we have no leverage negotiation rights. So I'd like this on the agenda for discussion tonight.
Okay, do we have a second? Okay, discussion. Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recall and was mentioned at the last meeting actually that there never was a vote that there would be leverage around this tax exemption. Discussions would occur. It was quite clear. In fact, I asked at that time that we were voting that it not be used as leverage, and that was confirmed. So I believe this is a moot point and not necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to Councillor Tinsley's comments, safety is paramount here. So if we're not going to discuss this, then I believe that you really don't have an idea about safety with regards to Kelly's Trail and with the parking and the interaction between industry, tourism, and
Okay,
locals.
a little over the line there, Councillor Burchett. So we're going to move on. Don't criticize another councillor and say they don't care about safety because that's
Because if we don't deal with this, it's an extreme
That
safety
is-
issue for Sayward.
okay, we're
and,
moving on. Thank you. So do we have a second on that? Thank you. Further discussion? Oh, sorry, microphone. Oh, Councillor Paulson, you gotta use your, when you second. So we have it on the recording.
I second that.
Discussion, Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe I need to respond to the accusation that I'm not interested in safety. That is not the case. This is not a safety issue. The operations have been operating the way they have for quite some time. We will be working with Nature's Trust. To paint it as a safety issue is not correct. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you. It was just brought to my attention, and there's actually a really good Facebook post regarding some of the local citizens of Sayward and their concerns about negative safety interactions with regards to the Hall Road and with Kelly's Trail that have been recent in the last month. So it is a paramount concern. Multiple residents of Sayward have come to me and discussed this. So I'm just carrying the voice of the concerned citizens of Sayward with regards to safety with Kelly's Trail not being extended and with there not being safe parking for tourists and proper signage.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would suggest that Councillor Burchett, if he feels safety is a large issue relative to this topic, aside from his concern about negotiations around tax exemptions, that the councillor follow process and bring it forward as an agenda discussion for a future meeting. We do have a full agenda with some very time-sensitive issues that need to be dealt with. Thank you.
Okay, so all in favor? Opposed? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought you were all in favor. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been trying for months and months and months to get some traction here with Kelly's Trail, the extension, and with Nature Trust. And every time I bring it up, it's unfortunate that I get this negative response from certain councillors. And I've tried numerous times. I've tried with the CAO when he first got here, pulled out maps. We discussed this. So I've tried at length for months and months to get this on the agenda, to deal with it, and to have it dealt with properly. And it's just been blatantly ignored.
Okay, Councillor Burchett, have you sent an email requesting that the CAO put it on the agenda prior to the agenda being complete? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Numerous times I've tried to interact with the CAO and it falls on deaf ears. Emails aren't answered. Complaints aren't taken to task. So as far as my trying to be professional, it's just
Councillor
not
Tinsley.
happening. So
Okay, we're moving on. All in favor of the motion that for Nature's Trust? Do you make a motion? You made a motion, correct?
yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like it on the agenda for discussion because it's a issue to a lot of
Yeah.
the constituents in Sayward. It needs to be discussed, needs to be worked on.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Did we already go through that? Did we already have a second? CAO, we did. Councillor Paulson seconded. Okay, all in favor? I'm in favor of the being on a later agenda. Sorry,
Mr. Mayor, could I make a motion to,
you have to finish this motion first,
oh, okay,
and then
all right.
you can make a motion or a subsequent. Okay, so all opposed? Motion is defeated. Go ahead, Councillor Paulson.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that the discussion around safety and extended parking and extending the trail, or Kelly's Trail, be moved to the agenda on November 21st.
Okay, with capacity of staff, is there any information you have from the past, from the previous council when they dealt with Nature's Trust, or anything that you can add new? Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To your question, do I have anything new? I don't. But I have learned from two residents of Sayward. I have received some background information on this. And from the perspective of administration, I'd just like to clarify that I get that this is an important issue for some, if not all of council, if it's under the umbrella of public safety. I've certainly heard that, and I've heard it loud and clear. In terms of prioritizing this amidst other business that is currently taking place, it just hasn't risen to the top. So I would like to clarify that it's not as though I don't care or anybody else doesn't care. It's just that it hasn't risen to the top of the pile yet. I could walk into my office and show you right now. I have a whole list of priorities on my wall, and it's right there for me to follow up on. We just haven't got there in terms of capacity yet. I don't believe that using the tax exemption bylaws as leverage would be a prudent approach to having and developing an ongoing reciprocal relationship with Nature's Trust. I don't think trying to use the tax exemption bylaw as a hammer would be an effective tool in this case. So I would encourage possibly just developing a good communal partner relationship as an approach, and begin discussions and see if there's been any changes in their position since the last time not this council, but the Village of Sayward Council went through the effort to try to try to develop a partnership.
Thank you. But hang on, we have a motion on the floor. What we're asking for is whether or not the staff had the capacity to do it for November 21st. It sounds like they don't, it'd be a later time. So are you comfortable?
Can I bring a point of order? We're talking about introduction of late items and whether we approve them or not. We are off topic. We are not debating. If any counselor wishes to present something for a future meeting, they can go through the normal process. It will be considered by the CEO based on volumes, and we'll move forward. Right now, we are on voting on any late items. That's it. That's my point of order. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's clearly that the normal way of getting it on the agenda is not working. Therefore, alternative measures must be taken.
Okay, I disagree, but that's fine. Okay, so let's finish this motion. We had a motion on the floor. Did you wish to amend it from the 21st, or do you want to stick to the 21st of November?
I would amend it to before the end of the year,
Okay,
if it's dealt with before the end of
Okay.
2023.
okay. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So for all of council's benefit, I understand your point, Councillor Tinsley. Just allow me for a moment. I would like to clarify what's being asked. I think I can commit to sometime in the next couple of months beginning to engage with Nature's Trust to potentially set up a meeting with me, staff to staff with them. If council is asking if staff can, and I've already said it's on my wall, we could walk in there now. If council is asking if staff can somehow begin to engage this topic with Nature's Trust sometime before the end of the year, I can answer yes, I will do that.
Okay.
But I'm falling short of committing to having some fulsome staff report that's going to bring a solution to this by November 21st or another meeting in the near future.
Well, you cannot speak for Nature's Trust and their timeline and when they get back and so on and so forth. So I think as long as the file is started, would that be acceptable, Councillor Paulson?
Yes, it would to me.
Okay, good. All in favor? Starting the process. Start the process. Yes.
I'm sorry, to Councillor Tinsley's point, we're just approving late items to the agenda. So this isn't necessarily the time to bring this up. Perhaps Councillor Paulson would want to add a verbal councillor's report
And then
to
we'll
the
make the motion
agenda,
there.
and you can bring that
Okay.
motion forward at that time.
Is that acceptable? Okay, thank you. Introduction of late items. Are we done? Okay, let me ask you a question before we go on to the next one. Did you email the list of introduction of late items to the CAO to be on this agenda again? As we discussed last
Thank
week?
you, Mr. Mayor. I clearly stated the issues having communications with the CAO earlier, and I stand by that.
Did you get the opportunity, or did you email the CAO on this list of introduction of late items? It's a yes or no, sir.
I'm not answering that.
Okay. Can we be quiet in the gallery, please? Councillor Tinsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe we have a fulsome agenda, both for the public meeting and an in-camera meeting after this. We have priority items. I believe that the introduction of late items should be for things that are of major importance and could not have been delivered any appropriate time frame for consideration for the agenda. And I would suggest that in the interest of the village, we move forward on important business and move from this topic. That's my suggestion. Thank you.
Need to make a motion on introduction of late items to be complete.
Then I make a motion that in the interest of the village's priority business, I make a motion that we move forward from this topic to the next topics on the agenda. Thank you.
Would you entertain a subsequent on that, stating that the list that Councillor Burchett has gets emailed to the CAO
I-
to get on the agenda, please?
I believe that's his responsibility and he should follow the process. Yes.
Okay.
I don't believe there's an amendment needed. I believe time is sensitive here. We have important business on the agenda. The councillor has brought
Okay.
forward 5 or 6 items. We have voted on them. It's now time to move to priority business for the village.
Very
And
well.
that is my suggestion. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Do I have a second on his motion?
I will second that.
Discussion. Councillor Burchett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I said earlier, communications with the CAO, sometimes emails don't get responded to. Sometimes complaints don't get addressed. So if he's going to pick and choose what he wants to respond to with regards to me following procedure, you
Okay.
might want to direct
know-
that at him. Thank you.
Do not attack the CAO in a public meeting. The question is, all you need to do is email him the information. If he doesn't respond, we'll deal with it at that time. No, you're not going to get the opportunity to attack him again, Councillor Burchett. It's unprofessional.
Thank you, Mr.
and
Mayor.
Against the code of conduct.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I said, I was just saying that
That's it.
there's some communication issues.
Councillor Burchett, if you cannot follow procedure, you will be asked to leave the meeting. Okay, so let's be adults, let's be professional and follow the procedure, or you will be asked to leave the meeting. So we have a motion on the floor. You had your say. We had a second. There was a discussion period. Now Councillor Paulson would like to speak.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to note the fact that at the October 17th meeting, the 10 items that Councillor Burchett presented were duly noted by all of council and the CAO and yourself on where they were going to go on the agenda. So I think the CAO did have them documented from that meeting. And also I believe that the items that were being asked to be put forward on the agenda have been carried forward from as far back as the 5th of September when they were supposed to be on the October 3rd meeting and they weren't. And then they were supposed to be on the October 17th meeting and they weren't. So that's why he brought them forward.
Okay,
So it's,
but if we follow procedure, proper procedure is introduction of late items, you vote on each one individually. Right? That's the proper procedure. Also, the proper procedure is if you have items, any council member has items that they want on the agenda, and it's not considered extreme time sensitive. It just came in yesterday, for example. Every one of us have the opportunity to email the CAO. Now, if Councillor Burchett said on right after last meeting, last Tuesday, on Wednesday, he emailed the 10 items that he wanted on that agenda for this meeting, that would be a different story, but he has not. So that's why we're moving on, and he can send an email to the CAO for them to be proper procedure to be put on the agenda. And that's fair. And that's fair for every council member. Okay, so all in favor of moving on from introduction of late items? Opposed? 2 opposed, motion is carried. Approval of agenda, that the agenda for the special regular council meeting held on October 24th, 2023 be approved. Motion, please.
I'll move that.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion. CAO,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council, this afternoon, Councillor Paulson came to see me and quite frankly was gracious to forewarn me, that's not the right adjective, was gracious enough to help me by pointing out several errors in the October 3rd, 2023 meeting minutes that are in your package tonight. I spent considerable time trying to correct those minutes, but I wasn't able to confirm several points against the video. And I'm asking that we pull the October 3rd, 2023 minutes until the next council meeting, until such time as I have an opportunity to make all of the necessary corrections, and I do apologize.
Thank you. Okay, so recommended, well, we're just going to pull them. We don't need a resolution on that. And that'll be moved to the next meeting on what's the date of the next meeting? 21st, correct?
The next meeting.
Okay, move to November 21st. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, there's a meeting scheduled for November 7th, which there is,
Later on in the agenda.
right, so I would suggest to the next meeting.
Okay, we'll just say to the next meeting. Thank you. Okay, petitioning delegations. None. Correspondence. We have a late item, CAO.
Mr. Mayor, I don't believe you called for approval of the
Amended agenda?
amended agenda.
Oh, I apologize. Okay, so as the agenda is amended, recommended resolution. Do I have a first, please?
I'll move that.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Counselor Pichette's opposed. The motion is carried. Thank you. Petitioning delegations again, none. Correspondence, late item, CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before council is a letter, an email and a letter that was received today, or pardon me, that was received yesterday from the Sayward Community Food Table. It's a letter requesting support for a grant, and I believe the rest of it's before you for consideration.
Thank you. So do we have a recommended resolution on this?
I'll move that we support this grant opportunity for them. Thank you.
CAO,
Sorry, I was just waiting for a moment. Councillor Polson, do you have a conflict?
it's not up to us to define conflict.
That's why I'm asking Councillor Polson. Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Wait, Counselor Bichette, are you seconding? Okay, thank you. So you're second?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Do we have discussion, please? Counselor Bichette?
Thank you. I'd just like to make a minor correction here. This is actually a letter of support, not a letter for support for grant.
I'm sorry, could you clarify, please?
This is a letter of support for the Sayward Food Table. I don't believe this is a grant support. Just want to clarify that for the motion.
This says they're asking the community fully embrace the project. They're writing a letter of support in Sayward Community Food Table Society grant application. Third paragraph from the bottom.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I stand corrected.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is supporting for a grant. We have a second discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, councilor's report. Councilor Polson. You had a motion you wanted to bring forth. Yeah. All good.
Mr. Mayor, could I just, as a reminder, because we just went through this, I've added councillor reports, Councillor Polson suggestion that staff engage with Nature's Trust as soon as possible.
Okay, so you're firsting that motion?
Yes,
Firsting?
I
don't
make
think that's
that
a
motion.
word.
Firsting.
Firsting,
Yeah.
we're firsting. Who's seconding?
I'll
No, microphone, please, sorry.
second that.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none? It is carried. Reports of committees, none. Mayor's reports, none. Unfinished business, none. Okay, staff report A, heat pump replacement. Recommended resolution that council accept a bid submission from Controller Air Heating and Cooling for the heat pump replacement of the RCMP detachment at 610 Kelsey Way at the cost of $11,223.89, exclusive of acceptable taxes, and that the staff be authorized to finalize the appropriate contact with the controlled air and heating cooling, and that staff be directed to report back to council at the end of, at the November 21st, 2023 council meeting with funding options for the heat pump replacement for council's consideration. Do I have a motion, please? Thank you. You're doing the motion?
Yeah, I'll move that.
Thank you. Second,
I'll second that.
discussion? Councillor Burchett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's fortunate enough that I have family members that are involved in this industry that actually work for companies that do installations on heat pumps. So I did a little bit of research with regards to these manufacturers. I know the two quotes here for 11,000 and 12,000 for a Payne or a Carrier are very similar. Payne is just a low-end Carrier knockoff product, so it would probably not be the best to go with the lowest end one. And if you look at the warranty, there's only 1 year parts and warranty on the Payne or the Carrier. Now, if service has to come up to Sayward anytime after 1 year, it's going to be an expensive minimum $500 to $1,000 per trip. So if you look at the Mitsubishi with a 10-year parts warranty, a difference of $5,200 over 10 years guaranteeing parts and warranty, I think even though the expense is a little more, that this is the absolute best option for the village of Sayward based on industry knowledge and people I talk to that are well-versed in this industry, know these manufactured products inside out.
I also agree with Councillor Burchett. I think if we went to the 16 grand, when we're talking $5,200 over a 10-year period, it would get sucked up pretty quick in parts and warranty. And anytime we get any mechanic or any servicing here in Sayward, there's automatically a $200 to $500 charge for travel. So I completely agree with Councillor Burchett on going for the $16,000 one. It'll save us money in the long run. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only encouragement would be it would be beneficial to receive this insight in advance so that I could have an opportunity to take this information, perhaps speak with the contractors about it, verify it, get further information.
Okay.
Thank you.
But when we're looking at, we have, correct me if I'm wrong, but we got 3 choices listed. Let me just see if I can find it. You got it right there. Thank you. We got 3 choices listed. And I think when you look at it, a 10-year part and warranty, I think is worth the 10 years. Councillor Tinsley?
I'm going to suggest that we rely on the CAO's recommendation. I'm going to suggest that every warranty is different and 10 years sounds great, but warranties all have small clauses in them. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert because none of us are experts. We're here to vote on items as recommended by the professionals. I just want to suggest that it is a recommendation. And I believe the other point I wanted to make is that it's reminded in the report that this is a time of the essence item for the department, and maybe the CAO can speak to that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. CAO, is it a time essence? Go ahead.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, time is of the essence in the sense that, and it forms the basis for why this is coming to you at this time, is that we had a service person come and do the service to do the service on the current unit. And it was at that time, which is close to a month and a half ago now, that the unit be replaced. And when I asked the Public Works manager when it needed to be replaced, he said now. It was recommended now before the inclement weather begins. In terms of a possible suggestion, given what I gleaning from council is support for spending upwards of $16,427.72. If Councillor Burchett would forward me the comments he's received from the expert he knows, and I can go back to the consultants. I'm a little bit hesitant to acknowledge sort of one of the recommended units as being a knockoff. I think that I contacted reputable contractors, and I'm not sure that they would recommend knockoff products be installed as village infrastructure. If there are suggestions, and I asked multiple questions of all of the contractors in relation to BC Hydro specs, our area versus say the interior, our climate versus the interior's climate. I received a lot of specific feedback to that. My suggestion would be, if council is comfortable spending up to $16,427.72, perhaps you'd like to make a motion to allow the CAO to do some follow-up research. Councillor Burchett can forward me the points that he received. I can compare that, speak with our contractors and maybe other contractors and spend and for you to give me approval to spend upwards of $16,427.72.
Okay, I agree with that. Councillor Burchett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd be happy to share information from the owner of AirServe in Victoria, who I've been in contact with regards to information, who has a longstanding business of installing heat pumps. So I can pass on that information and pass on his information of, yes, Payne is a low-end carrier knockoff. So with regards to that, and I also want to say I agree 100% with Mayor Baker that $5,200 over 10 years is a very great warranty idea, which will save us money in the long run.
Okay, so let's put subsequent on to the end of my motion that I read here, stating that we give the CAO the option of spending up to the $16,427.72 if necessary. On to the end of that motion, please. After the research, Councillor Burchett,
I'll move that.
second.
I will second that.
Further discussion? Councillor Paulson?
I just want it noted that I too agree with the $16,427.72. And am I correct, through the mayor to CAO, the, what do you call it? The applicable taxes are we get them back as a village. So we don't have to consider the taxes on this payment, on this cost.
Sorry, your microphone, please.
If we get them, if we're permitted to get them back, we'll get them back.
Okay, thank you. Oh, your microphone, please.
And a question about the Mitsubishi that I'd be interested in is it an inside the building air conditioner, or is it outside? Thank you.
Your microphone, please.
It's an outside, it's a replacement unit to the exterior one that currently exists.
So all in favor with the amended motion? Thank you. Oh, you have more? Sorry.
We have.
Yeah, I put it in.
What?
Saying giving the CAO the latitude to spend up to the 16,400 or 427.72. I added that to the motion.
So we agreed to that, but we haven't discussed the spending that money based on the information that the staff can confirm that the village has ample funds. And I'm hesitant to make a motion on, or to support a motion on spending that much money when we, at this point, we don't know where it's coming from. So it's kind of like
We'll get clarification.
uncomfortable to me. So
Okay,
I think we need to know exactly where the funds are coming from, and perhaps having a variance report would confirm this, that we have the money.
CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Polson brings up an important subject, and it is a component of the staff report here that in our current situation right now, staff is not currently able to recommend a specific source of funds, but as I've stated in the report, I can confirm that the village has ample funds. I mean, just to use an example, we have recently received our Growing Communities grant from the province of British Columbia. It's nowhere near having been spent, so I'll just provide that as one example of a source that it could come from. The recommendation here is for staff to bring back a more specific or specific options at the November 21st meeting. And finally, just for clarification on the recommendations and that the motion that you've made, I've written down that council authorized the CAO to purchase a replacement heat pump for the RCMP detachment at 610 Kelsey Way for a cost of up to $16,427.72. I would suggest that the second motion in the report be omitted altogether, and that you consider the third motion, which is that staff be directed to report back to council, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, well, I'm going to reread the motion. Okay? Everybody's good with that? Thank you. That council accept the bid submission. That's incorrect. Correct? That's not.
You want me to read it? That
Sure.
council authorized the CAO to purchase a replacement heat pump for the RCMP detachment at 610 Kelsey Way for a cost of up to $16,427.72.
Okay. And also we're adding the, I want to attach them both together, please.
And the second motion would be that staff proposed or suggested motion that staff be directed to report back to council at the November 21st, 2023 regular council meeting with funding options for the heat pump replacement for council's consideration.
Okay, thank you. So do we have a first? Councilor Burchett,
I'll move that.
second,
I'll second that.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Excuse me, happens when you get up too early. Okay, consideration of backyard chickens and hens. The council received the backyard chicken staff report for information and discussion, and that council will provide direction to staff on the next steps. Do I have a motion, please? Councilor Burchett,
I would happily move that.
do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion. Councilor Burchett,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm a firm believer in backyard chickens and food security and healthy food security for locals. And also people have the right to produce food on their property. So I fully back this. I read the report, although it's identical to a report I read earlier. So there's nothing really new here, but I would like to see staff move this forward and maybe look at some bylaws that are already in effect in approximately 80% of municipalities on Vancouver Island that already have this. So there's a really good staple of bylaws that we could look at to help tie this all together.
right, Councilor Gilkin,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wholeheartedly and fully support all the words that Councilor Burchett just stated. I personally believe in food security, and I think chickens are a great source. Eggs, there's all that good stuff. I just and I do believe it should be moved forward, and we should get this going. But I don't know on with staff's crunch, how that, if we'll have to,
Okay.
what's gonna go on there, yeah.
I was informed by a chicken person that, no, not the Easter Bunny, the actual chicken person. And she communicated to me that basically you don't get chickens going until March. So there is ample time for us to put this into play. But she also came up with a really good idea, because there are a lot of concerns about attracting of animals and whether or not the individuals that do have chicken pens are going to look after them properly. There is a lot of concerns on that. And her suggestion was that we do it for 1 year. And if it's successful in that 1 year, then we keep going. If it's a complete mess and we have bylaw problems, we have people complaining all the time, then we look at the 1 year and we axe it. And I am not a huge fan of chickens being in the backyard because of the reasons that I stated. So, but I am willing to accept a year trial basis. And if within that year, if staff is inundated, pardon me, with complaints and we have nothing but issues, then we change it. If they don't, then it's over. Is that fair, Councillor Tinsley?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Relative to the discussion, my thoughts are that we're all talking the same talk around the need for food safety. However, I suggest that we move to a next step based on the staffing ability to assess what possible bylaws could apply in this area. We also, at that point, will be able to look at the reality of the potential next step relative to staffing available. As we all know, we have a village that as it doesn't have a separate bylaw enforcement officer. So I think we have to recognize that. I would say I'm totally in agreement of taking the next step as it fits into the huge schedule that staff has for this small village. And that next step would be assessing and bringing forward a draft of a bylaw for consideration and further discussion. That would be my suggestion. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Paulson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to point out on page 15 in the report, under the public nuisance bylaw where it says draft status, that actually that bylaw was amended, number 502, 2023, and it was adopted on June the 6th. So that work has already been done. And I would suggest to Councillor Tinsley that I don't think we need to have bylaw enforcement officers, because we'll have lots of neighbors enforcing the bylaws.
Okay.
With any complaints.
Again, for me, I'm comfortable with it. Thank you. I'm comfortable with it if we put that year timeline on and give an opportunity to do a test run on it. CAO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm certainly gleaning from council that everybody agrees with this. And I think that when considering it in the context of going out to pick up a couple of eggs every day, I certainly couldn't argue with that. I have to say my greatest concern about this, which is something that I'd actually suggest perhaps council direct me to take as a first step. My primary concern around this is around the potential animal to animal conflict and the animal to human conflict that may arise, that could arise or may arise if any research may reveal from me speaking with other communities, with other chicken owners, etc., if there's any likelihood that the presence of chickens, and who knows how many people will become interested in doing this, what the presence of chickens, what impact the presence of chickens may have on an increased activity of cougars, bears, other type animals. I'm not trying to be exaggerating at all. It's just a concern for me in terms of staff capacity. We are a very rural and remote community. We don't have bylaw enforcement. We don't have regular officers, wildlife officers in the vicinity to respond, and that's my concern. It's only a thought, and perhaps council wants to suggest that staff investigate that aspect of this as a first step as we build towards the perhaps February goal of having this all wrapped up, ready for March.
Okay, Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like I said earlier, between 70 and 80% of Vancouver Island municipalities already have chicken bylaws, have backyard chickens. I've been a chicken owner in the past as well, so I don't see a big issue with conflict with other animals. We live in a rural area. There's bears in the village. There's elk that walk through the village. There's people in the village that feed the stray cats. So there's other attractants that are out there. I don't think backyard chickens is going to make a difference with the amount of animals. And as far as staffing issues and amount of time that goes into this, well, most of the hard work's done. We've got some great boilerplates for bylaws on municipalities that are rural or urban, like Saanich or Victoria. So this should be pretty easy to get done and wrapped up. And hopefully we can move on with it.
Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I suggest that the CAO's suggestion around a next step and the timeline is more than reasonable and is prudent for something of this nature and relative to its priority with the other priorities for the village. Thank you.
And as the CAO mentioned, I mean, we would have all this wrapped up one way or another by February. We can't do anything until March, or pardon me, the chicken ownership or whatever it's going to be can't happen until March. So I think it's fair to allow just that little bit of time for due diligence. Councillor Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's one thing to have the chicken eggs hatched and ready to go for March, but there's another thing to have people prepare backyards and to put up proper fencing and cages and make the appropriate nesting areas for hens. So there is a bit of preliminary work that needs to be done. So if we get on this sooner, the better, so people can be ready for early next year with regards to having their facilities ready.
Motion would be to allow the next step for our CAO to gather more information, correct, and have it ready for early February. CAO.
Mr. Mayor, given Councillor Burchett's observations around allowing residents to prepare for chickens, might I suggest that council direct staff to research any animal to animal and/or animal to human conflict, research any animal to animal and/or animal to human conflict and report back to council in January?
Okay. With that, do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second? Susan.
I'll second that.
Wilson,
Oh.
second. Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, carried. Hey, request to cancel the November 7th council meeting 2023 and staff report, and the council approved the cancellation of the November 7th, 2023 council meeting and direct staff to advertise accordingly. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second?
I'll second that.
Discussion? Councillor Burchett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Due to the abundance of work that needs to get done here, I'm just curious as to why we need to cancel a meeting here.
Councillor Tinsley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the report explains the amount of volume that is on the staff currently and is a full explanation of the reason for not having this meeting and moving forward with a later date. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it gives staff an opportunity without having to prepare agendas and so on and so forth to attack that workload. So I'm in agreement with it. So Councillor Paulson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that it's a 5-week gap from October 17th, when this was first requested, to November 21st. And the projected, for dealing with projected updates and outstanding items that will be not discussed until for 4 weeks now. And I believe that council should adhere to the procedure bylaw that specifies dates for meetings and the reasons for cancellation. There is specific dates set aside, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month. And I think not having a meeting for 4 weeks leaves a lot to be misplaced or not carried forward. And I would prefer to have a meeting on November the 7th so that, and I wonder if we could, after this motion is decided, if we could look at another way of maybe helping the staff have more time to work on things like adjusting work days in the office. Like I know at the beginning of January, there was staff in the office 5 days a week. And so there was a chance to get a lot of work accomplished at the beginning of that time. So I would vote against, I would not support this motion.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so on the motion to, there's the cancellation of the November 7th meeting. All in favor? Opposed? 2 opposed, the motion is carried. Permissive tax exemption bylaw 503, 2003 be given fourth and final reading. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Burchett, the motion is carried. Okay, and that the permissive tax exemption bylaw 503 be given fourth and final reading. I already did that. Why is that there? Okay. Okay. New business. CAO staff memo.
Oh, shoot.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, the staff memos before you for the benefit of the gallery and others. I have no issue reading this aloud. The title of the staff memo is Meeting Procedure Error, October 17th, 2023. The memo reads as follows. On Tuesday, October 17th, council gathered for what was intended to be a regular council meeting. A majority of council would not approve the meeting agenda, and therefore procedurally the meeting could not occur. Council then proceeded into an in-camera meeting. The next morning, when beginning to type minutes from the in-camera meeting, it dawned on me that because the regular council meeting did not occur and council therefore did not announce publicly its reasons for meeting in camera, the meeting in fact was not permitted to occur, and therefore procedurally it didn't. As staff, I take responsibility for my part in either aiding in this procedural error or failing to recognize the absence of proper procedure and subsequently stopping the meeting from occurring. In terms of record keeping, there is no record of an October 17th, 2023 in-camera council meeting, including agenda, minutes, and video. The staff recommendation is that council receive the staff memo, meeting procedure error, October 17, 2023 for information. And the only other item that I'd like to add, I could have written it in here, was that I did phone the mayor relatively immediately on the October 18th and inform him of my discovery and explain to him that I would I explained to him that I had already spoken with a couple of other corporate officers for any guidance, and that the recommendation was to write verbal, either provide council with a verbal report about this or to write a report. And I chose to write a report so that it was on the record.
Thank you. I think one of the things none of us have come across where we've had to, the agenda was never approved and we had to cancel. So I think it's, Mayor, go ahead, Councillor Tinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. correct me if I'm wrong, but no one seconded. We didn't actually even vote. No one wanted to second
Correct.
the motion. So it was never voted on. And because no one would second the motion, the meeting did not happen. My only other question was that at the end of the meeting, it was quite clearly asked by me, are we going in camera? And I find it difficult. I totally respect the CAO's position, but I do find it difficult there were public here. We asked them to leave. We said we were going in camera. I'm finding that difficult to understand how that meeting didn't exist. Not that anything is really important there, but I'm just really trying to understand that. Thank you.
Let me explain. On the agenda, for example, on number 16 that we have on the agenda right now, that's a recommended resolution that we go into in camera. So without that being mentioned in the regular camera, procedurally, we cannot go in the regular meeting. We cannot go into in camera because this was never voted on. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. So sorry, Councillor Paulson.
Thank you. And further to Councillor Tinsley's information, I find it hard to digest that the meeting that was held up to the point where it was adjourned didn't happen. Because, like you said, if it didn't happen, what happened to all of that information? And there were several there were questions from the audience at the beginning. There was a presentation of a petition. So does that mean there's no record of any of that? Because the meeting was adjourned, but it did start and we went through the First Nations reading and the call to order and the public input. And then introduction of late items was done. And when it came to approval of the agenda, that was not seconded. So I can't see, and so then it was adjourned based on information brought back from the CAO. So I'm having a hard time finding out or figuring out how that meeting didn't happen.
Well, because procedurally, when you do not approve the agenda, you cannot move forward. So therefore, the meeting is over.
It's
And
over.
it's done. So CAO, essentially,
Yeah, when using, I think it's confusing sometimes because we get caught up in the nuances of using, for example, the word over. Well, if it was over, that sort of implies that it started. From a local government governance perspective, if council does not approve an agenda or an amended agenda, then there is no meeting. You have no authority to meet. You have no agenda to meet. I will inform council that of the feedback I received, a couple of points I guess might be beneficial in terms of using it as a learning moment. One of the corporate officers I spoke with when I explained what was happening suggested that I find a moment to emphasize the point that sticking to the agenda is beneficial for everybody involved, that at the crux of it, part of the issue that why this arose, one of the reasons why this issue arose, I think because there was a commitment to introduce a number of late items, which I think created some tension within council, and then therefore council would not move on with an approved agenda. It does hammer home the importance of trying to follow the council procedure bylaw of you know, we have a deadline of Wednesday of the week before the council agenda to submit agenda items. I think the learning moment here is to try to stick to that as much as possible, so there aren't any surprises which catch everybody on council or potentially catch people on council off guard. The second learning moment that I think might be worth passing on is there was an opportunity to reconsider the agenda, to just redo and to go over it and over it and over it and try to find. Council could have spent time trying to flesh out, is there one or more? Is it all of the late items that are creating contention? So you could have gone to that effort if you wanted to and tried to flesh out where the issues might have arisen and maybe pull one or more of those items out, see if you could form some consensus around getting to an agenda you could in fact approve. So
Yeah.
just learning moments going forward.
I think because it was the first time that's ever happened, everybody was sort of cut off guard on it. And I doubt we will be cut off guard again. Okay, so that's under new business. I need a motion to receive, please.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second,
I will second that.
discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Bichette's opposed. Motion is carried. Public question period. For the purpose of public question period is to enable citizens to ask questions of the council about issues that are important to the citizen asking the question. Speakers are asked to limit their questions to one each, and if time permits and everyone has an opportunity to ask a second question, speaker may ask a second question. Citizens are asked to state their name and address, please. Anyone? You have to go to the microphone, please.
In reference to the chickens, I just have to let it be known that I do believe both my husband and I are deadly against the chickens. I understand that I believe Tom Tinsley's wife will be. I don't believe the condo association would allow Scott to have them in the garden back of the room, and Cole lives in the valley, et cetera, et cetera. But don't believe or don't really know about Councillor Olson and yourself. I don't know about either, but right now we have enough trouble with the animals, the dogs and the cats that the people here in the village can't take care of, the messy front and backyards, and vehicles and RVs parked all over where they're not supposed to be, that we have no bylaw officer. And we have no one that is going to be able to come to the neighbors and say, you know, you're not looking after the chickens, the pens aren't built right, et cetera, et cetera. It will continue to get out of hand, as well as I do strongly believe that it will be attracted to the mice and the rats and the cougars and the bears and the neighborhood dogs running wild, not to mention the cats, regardless of how well the pens are built. I have neighbors around, and I've just literally throwing my hands up in the air and given up on writing to council because we don't have a bylaw officer. And if we did, and he was working in conjunction at another job throughout the village, he's much busier doing something a tad more important than chasing the damn neighborhood dog that's running around loose and or other things such as that. But no, I'm not in agreement of it.
Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else? To the microphone, please. State your name and address. Clearly into the mic, please.
Introducing the parking lot, because the parking lot would have been on their land if they wanted to use. The parking lot, the only area that was reasonable to have was on the east side of the road. As you're headed towards the junction from the village, it's on your right. People that were beside that objected, very much objected to having, because that's right across from Kelly's Bridge Trail, objected to having a parking lot beside their property. When you're talking about safety on this issue, if you introduce a parking lot on the east side of the road, then what you're doing is you're asking people to cross two highways, two roads, one highway and a luxury. Okay, so you're actually creating more risk than what you had before. But they were not receptive. Talk to them by all means. They may be receptive. Maybe they changed their mind in one way, shape, or form. But at the time, they were not interested.
Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Okay. So the in-camera recommended resolution. That in accordance with section 92 of the community charter, this council meeting will be closed to the public in order for the council to be given considerations in matter of the following sections of the community charter. Number 91C, labor relations and other employee relations, and section 91F, law enforcement, if council considered that disclosure could be reasonable and expected to harm the conduct of an investigation or under enforcement of an enactment, and section 90-1G, potential litigation impacting local government, excuse me, and 90-1I for the receipt of advice for a subject of solicitor-client privilege, including communication necessary for that purpose. So do I have a motion, please?
I'll move that.
Second,
I'll second that.
discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. And number 17, an motion on adjournment, please.
I'll move that.
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, motion is carried. We'll adjourn for until 8:25, folks. Close to 10 minutes, we're going to take 15.